What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Morbid Files show. I'm your host, Texxx, and tonight I have a very special guest with me that I'm very excited to have, and that is none other than Nancy Thompson. Diandra Lazor. Diandra, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. It's been an awesome day, very busy, but how have things been with you?
Good. Staying busy, trying to get this new channel going. So it's going good. We had Roberto Lombardi on for the first show, so it was really good.
Way to start. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, Diandra, tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of where you come from.
Well, I am a Midwestern Ohio gal. I grew up in a conservative family. Didn't really watch horror. It wasn't until about the age of 14 I was on vacation, had a Freddy Krueger dream, woke up, was suddenly obsessed with Freddy.
Really?
Started watching the movies, fell in love with Nancy Thompson. That Halloween, I decided to be her. Someone said, no one's going to know who you are. I said, but I'll know. So I printed I printed out a little collage with her picture on it, several photos, and I took it to school, and people were like, oh yeah. There were only 2 people who knew who I was, and that was because the movie had been on the night before. Right. But and then I went online and I started talking to people, and eventually went on Facebook, and just been adventuring ever since, and here I am today.
All right, awesome. Now, you said you had a dream of Freddy. Have you ever beforehand watched any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, or just?
I had seen, I think, part of Freddy's Dead, maybe like 2 seconds of Freddy's Revenge, and not really the first movie, although I do remember the scene when Marge is going into the fog and Nancy and Donald are watching. I remember that scene was always on TV, and it always scared the crap out of me. Right. But I had never seen one of the movies all the way through. But I did have several Freddy dreams before that.
Wow, awesome. Now, did you ever get to see any of the TV show that was on, Freddy's Nightmares?
When it was on, but I did see it throughout the years. It was on Chiller, and some friends own it. So.
Right, yeah. Those are definitely pretty good shows. So. Now, going back to your horror films and stuff, what was your favorite, or your very first, I guess, as a kid, horror film that you ever saw?
There were little bits and pieces. I think What Lies Beneath. I think really? I saw a little bit of that. That scared me. The first horror movie I watched all the way through was in 7th grade at a sleepover. We watched Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that scared me for probably about 2 years. So I want to say that was the very first horror movie I got the chance to watch. Very
nice. Awesome. I think the very first one I ever saw as a young kid was Night of the Living Dead, and the original. Yeah. And I think to this day it's still #1 horror film that I enjoy. So aside from the Nightmare on Elm Street, films, of course. So now you do a lot of cosplay. How did you get involved in that?
I think it was the Halloween costume thing. I actually came across some diaries that I'd had recently from when I was a little girl, and I loved the American Girl dolls, and so I had cast like a fan film. I didn't know what it was back then, of all of us playing the different American Girl dolls, and I'd written down how we were going to do our costumes. And growing up, I'd always been very particular about my Halloween costumes. They always had to be very precise, and I always enjoyed dressing up. So I think once I put on the little pajamas, and they were like white top, white bottoms, and I think I drew on the flowers with some marker that I had. And it was like really cheesy. And I just started reenacting some stuff, and it was very, very low quality, like just taking up a random phone and like talking on it. So it was very simple, but people seemed to really like it. And then after that, I guess it just took off. But my whole life, I've always loved putting costumes together, so I guess it was kind of destiny.
Awesome. I've never got into the cosplay, but from what I can see is it looks like it can get very, very expensive.
So. And taxes.
Now, do you go to a lot of Comic Cons and stuff like that, or?
I haven't been to a Comic Con ever. I would like to go. I normally go to just the horror cons, not just the horror cons, but the horror cons, and those are my favorite because they can be big, but also small and intimate at the same time, and it's my people. So I haven't been able to go to as many over the last couple of years. I used to go 2-3 a year. Now I've only been able to go to one since like 2014 a year, but those are my favorite places to go. I love them.
Definitely. Now, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you mentioned that you were in the filmmaker. How did that transpire? Was that something like as a child that you always wanted to do, or is it something as an older age that you got into?
I had always loved production. Would put on plays. I would write stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know I kept going through that little diary I had, and I was planning out my movie. And then we do stop motion video of like Barbie and Ken. And I would take photos and things, but I had always loved doing it. And it wasn't until recently that it really became a possibility. And thankfully it was because of a group of very, very good friends who have the same interest as I do.
Right. Awesome. So you're looking to, I guess, further?
Yes.
You're more awesome. Awesome. Well, let's talk about, I guess, the real reason you're here. The Nightmare on Elm Street fan film, Don't Fall Asleep. You play Nancy Thompson. How did that come about? How did you get involved with that?
Well, last year at Horror Hound in Indianapolis, Nathan Thomas Milliner had showed The Confessions of Fred Krueger. And my friends, Paige and Michelle, we were just joking about what if we made a Nancy fan film? And then they started to write the script. And then we started to put it into motion, and it kind of took off from there. And it's always been one of those things, I think maybe all Nightmare fans, if not at least the Nancy fans, have always wondered what happened to her between the first and the third movie. And there are some hints out there with the different materials, but we kind of put all of our different ideas together, and then we decided to make this movie of this untold story. And everyone always does a story about the villains, but nobody has ever really done a story about any of the other characters in any horror movie as far as fan films go. I guess I'm going to have to look further into it, but I haven't really come across any Laurie Strodes or Kirsty Cottons or Sidney Prescotts or Nancy Thompsons before. She did make a cameo in the end of Nathan's film. Did you see it by any chance?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that was actually supposed to be me at that ending, but it was too far for me to drive. So I was very honored that Nathan had asked me to do that. But now I guess we're just kind of taking her out of the little bit, and we're making the big movie out of it.
Right. Now, of course, you've been a fan of Nancy Thompson and everything, but I guess how did you get the role of Nancy? Was it something just pretty much, yeah, we've got to get her, or?
I think it came from that because we were so close, and when we had originally intended it was just going to be like on a small camera with just a bunch of friends, but the more we put into it, the more we realized we wanted it to be a little more and then a little more. And I was just there, and I've done this character for years, and they just kind of automatically put me into it. And not that I'm complaining, but it's an honor. And so that's kind of how I got the role.
Awesome. Now, I guess the question I want to ask is why the character of Nancy Thompson? What, I guess, fascinates you about the character of Nancy Thompson?
Yeah, I always identified with her. She was the girl from the Midwest, another country in the first movie.
Okay.
Who had poofy brown hair like I did. And she always seemed to stand alone, and she had a good head on her shoulders. And she didn't really care how she dressed, neither did I. But she had a best friend too who was spunky, but also a little promiscuous. And Nancy tried to, it always seemed to me like she was like the wise voice in Tina's head. And I was the same way with my best friend. My best friend was exactly like Tina. And so just the way Nancy was a lot like myself. My mother had actually told me shortly after I'd watched the first movie, I was dealing with something, and she goes, Diandra, you have a tendency to face things. I mean, it's just in your nature. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Awesome.
So I guess I just really always identified with Nancy Thompson on a different level.
Right. Now, for me personally, when I think of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I automatically think of three people, and of course that's Robert Englund, Lisa Wilcox, and Heather Langenkamp. And that's just for me personally. Now, of course, there's a lot of other great actors and actresses in the movies. Now, did you take a lot of notes, which I'm guessing it's probably kind of a silly question, but did you take a lot of notes from Heather to play the role of Nancy, or did you kind of just take a little bit from you and a little bit from her?
It was mixed. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of, I mean, there was Heather, but I didn't want to copy Heather because it's a fan film, and I didn't want it to be, I still wanted to maintain that different aspect because it's really even just difficult to copy somebody. So I just tried to maintain the spirit of Nancy. Right. And, but there are some things that I do in it that might be a smirk or the way that Nancy tilts her head that I copied from Heather, mm-hmm. just to keep those little quirks in there. But for the most part, it's kind of a halfway point between myself and her Nancy.
Right. Well, I do have to say, I did see the little teaser film that y'all have been posting, and it looks fantastic. I'm really excited. So, now, you've met Heather Langenkamp. Does she know about the fan film, or do you know?
It would be an honor if Heather knew about this movie and liked the idea.
Awesome. How is she? I've never got the pleasure of meeting her in person or everything, but everybody that I've talked to that has says she's just a down-to-earth, super nice person. But in your words, what type of person is she?
Heather she is extremely nice. She's extremely giving, and she's enthusiastic and honest. And she is very, very quirky too. She is extremely smart. She is excellent at just talking about anything, and especially in analyzing the movies. I'm always so fascinated as to how she breaks them down. Right. But she's always willing to talk to anybody. She always has a smile on her face, and she's a very, very welcoming person. And I am so blessed to have gotten to know her over the years. Right. And I'm just very lucky to get to know somebody like that, who she might have played Nancy, who's my role model, but Heather as a person has also become my role model.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Now, during the filming of Don't Fall Asleep, kind of take us through a day on the set. How was it?
We only had a couple of days to film. I think total we did maybe 3 days of filming the whole movie. Mm-hmm. And so we got up super early, and I had Paige would come in, because Paige is multi-talented. Not only is she our director, producer, writer, everything, she is also a stylist. So she would do my hair, she would do my makeup, she would make sure that there was enough poof, or as she would call, she would zhuzh my hair. And I would get into costume, and then we would get into the car, and we'd get to set. We'd make sure everybody was there. I would line up all my costumes. We would put them in certain areas and mark them. If we had done filming the day before, we would make sure that all of those were out and they were marked so we can maintain that continuity. And it was a very long day. I mean, I think we did maybe 12, 13 hours of filming every day.
Wow.
But I have so much respect for actors and actresses, because we did that over 3 days, but they'll do it for weeks and months on hand. And I mean, that is just, I can't even imagine. It takes a lot of coffee. You know,
Literally. Right.
to keep you alert. But it's just going all day, especially when you're under a time crunch to get everything done. It was running around, and when you went to bed, you were out at night.
Awesome. Now, you touched on it a little bit at the beginning about what is Don't Fall Asleep. But could you tell, for people that might not know exactly what this film is going to be about, could you tell us a little bit about exactly what it's about?
Sure. It is the story of Nancy Thompson directly after the first movie and coming into Dream Warriors when she returns. So as you notice, between the first movie, she's very feisty, she's very young. And then in the third movie, she's more calm and collected. And we explained a lot of why that is and how she changed and why she changed and why her streak flips the side. Right. We know that they didn't watch the movie, but we still went with it and we still explained why the streak flips. Mm-hmm. And so we just delved into her struggles and why she chose to go the path that she did and eventually end up at Fairview to help those kids.
Now, who is some of your co-stars with you?
We have Chad Hewitt. He plays a character that we're introducing named Joel, who is a little bit of a troublemaker, but he ultimately has Nancy's best interest at heart, and he is her friend throughout a lot of her struggles. We also have Therese, who is Nancy's feisty roommate. We've got Marshall, who's kind of shy. We have some of Nancy's college friends. We have some characters that are not in the movies, but they are within the Nightmare on Elm Street storyline that do relate to Nancy. So we have quite a great cast and crew. We were very, very blessed because they were always on top of it. And I wish I could say everybody that's in it, because I think that we have a lot of really good surprises that everyone's going to have to wait to find out. But there's definitely a lot more that I can't talk about.
Right. Okay. I understand. I'm excited. But now, who played Freddy?
It is William Adams.
Williams, okay.
And he's been doing Freddy for a long time. He is actually the first Freddy that I ever met back at Days of the Dead in 2011. And he has always been such a great Freddy. I mean, when he puts on the mask and the glove and the hat and everything, he really becomes Freddy. And I've always been so amazed at how he's able to transform. And if I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm allowed to say this, I hope they won't kill me, but he is actually Robert Englund approved.
Wow, very nice.
Robert Englund told him he's one of the best Freddys he's ever seen.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, like I said in the past, those are some very big shoes to fill. So now, when is the release date for the fan film?
The release date worldwide is September 5th, Labor Day, on YouTube. However, Days of the Dead, Louisville, will be screening it on the big screen that weekend. And we have the day and the time. We're just waiting on when we can let that be known. But it will be shown at Days of the Dead, Louisville.
Will it be just on YouTube, or will it be for people if they want to purchase it?
We actually will not have it on DVD. We won't have it purchased.
Okay.
So it will be just on YouTube.
Nice. All right. Well, awesome. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm sure a lot of other people are too. Well, Diandra, on the Nightmare on Elm Street films, if you could pick one aside from the original, what is your favorite?
Actually, my favorite, even over the original, is New Nightmare.
Which one?
New Nightmare.
Really?
Nightmare, yeah.
That's my girlfriend's favorite too.
Yeah.
Why is New Nightmare your favorite?
I think the acting is spectacular. I love the idea of the people who made these movies actually having to battle Freddy. Because that's like such a fan thing to think about. Like, what happens if it was real? What would they do? And I love the struggle that the Heather Langenkamp character goes through, and then she has to finally accept it. And the music is great. The whole idea of children and wisdom, and then tying it in with Hansel and Gretel, and the cameo appearance by our beloved Wes Craven, right, and Robert as himself, and everybody else. I mean, it's just such a great commentary on the phenomenon of creating a movie like A Nightmare on Elm Street, how it's kind of symbolic that this Freddy character is always going to follow them. He's always going to kind of terrorize them. I guess he's just with them forever. And people love him, but, you know, sometimes people shy away from them. They're like, why was I ever in that horror movie? You know, I don't really like horror. And some people never return to it. Some people stick with it. And I just think it's a smart movie, and it's so in reality, and a lot of the lighting and the way things are shot are very natural. So it's just a beautiful movie overall, and that's why it's my favorite.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, Wes Craven, of course, is already a genius, but with that one, he totally, knocked it out of the ballpark, so to speak. For me, I would have to say my very, favorite besides the original would be Dream Warriors.
Knew it. I knew you were.
I mean, I know that's a lot of fans' is favorite, but for me, it is my favorite. And I guess one, because after 2, it kind of takes you back to more of the dream world. You know, it's more realistic for me, so to speak. So you can be anything in your dreams. So, which it didn't work out for them, but.
What would your dream power be?
Do what now?
What would your dream power be?
Dream power? Oh man. You know, is corny? Well, I don't want to say corny, but I think I would have picked a wizard too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you would have more, I guess, ability over Freddy, but of course, at the end of the day, you know, it's his world.
Maybe you would.
Right.
Well, he kind of slipped up there just a second, but who knows? Maybe it would come in handy for you.
Right. What about you? What would yours?
Mine would be not dying at the end. No, I'm just kidding. Gosh, I don't know. I'm not very good. I don't ever have any powers in my dreams. I guess maybe flying. I could fly away, but he'd always find me. God knows what he'd turn into. Maybe that's when he would have turned into the Wicked Witch of the West instead of...
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that is my favorite movie, but the only thing I don't like about it is how they took out Nancy. You know, I kind of would figure they would have made it a little bit more drawn out with it. Just, you know, there she is, and he just throws her to the side and moves on. I thought it would be more of a little bit drawn out.
Did you ever read the original script or the novelization of the third movie?
I haven't, no.
It's very different. It's on A Nightmare on Elm Street, or nightmareonelmstreetfilms.com. Mm-hmm. Wes's original script, but at the end, I mean, Nancy is more feisty in it. It's a very different movie from what we really got. Right. And at the end, she knows it's him. And he turns, I believe, gosh, it's been a while. I get them confused between the novelization. I believe she stabs him before he stabs her. Okay. Or she knows, but in the end, she does end up still dying, which I think is really beautiful because Nancy wants to protect people so much. Right. And the only way she can really do that is to be on Freddy's level. So in the comic books, the Innovation Publishing comic books, which are considered canon by New Line Cinema, they were commissioned as a lead into Freddy's Dead. And at the end of that, they say, I definitely know it was in the script, Neil and Kristen are having, I think it's lunch or dinner. I want to say dinner because it'd be too early to go to bed. And Kristen asks him, do you still see her? And he says, well, I'm going to see her tonight. And that's why I'm kind of hurrying things up because Nancy does live on within the beautiful dream. Okay. So she doesn't die. And it's always been kind of this really infuriating thing because I know that. Because that's comic books too, right. But he knows it, and so I'm like, gosh, I wish everybody knew that because it's so important. But yeah, check that out.
Yeah, so. Definitely will. What's your least favorite? Which out of the films?
I'm not going to include the remake because that's not in the original. I don't know. I think Dreamchild, number 5. Every time I watch it, I'm like, why do I not like this movie as much?
Right.
I don't know. I just don't watch it like the others. I think it might be Freddy's makeup. I don't know. There's just something that's off about the movie that just doesn't catch my attention as much.
Right. I think number 2 would be mine.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the makeup and everything was great. I don't know. I'm kind of like you. I don't know really why I don't like it, but it's just, I don't know. It's my least favorite. I mean, I respect it, but as far as liking it, I guess I would have to put it at the end, you know. But so, well, you mentioned remake. What would you like? I guess what would you like to see happen to Freddy? I guess do you think they should remake more movies? Not aside from the fan films, of course. Do you think they should make more like remakes or just leave it alone? Because me and my girlfriend were talking the other night. We were actually watching Dream Warriors, and she said, they need to leave it alone because it was a movie for that time, and the special effects for that time, that's what makes it so great. But in your opinion, what do you think?
Well, I definitely agree that it worked so well because of the time period it was in and the way people were and the practical effects and everything, which they could certainly bring back. I mean, a lot of movies have done it recently. But I am somebody who really, really likes extra material. So I know what the Nightmare on Elm Street films are, but I love to read even the novelizations, or I love the fan films. Mm-hmm. I love anything that will give me more nightmare. So if I could have more nightmare, that would be great. But if it's done well.
Right.
So a good cast, a good script, practical effects. But I'm somebody who really loves to watch more. And I know so many people are stuck on, Robert is the only Freddy. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people in fan films, like Roberto, or like Kevin in The Confession of Fred Krueger, or there was one that was supposed to come out that didn't, called Son of a Hundred Maniacs. Okay. That was very, very different. He did not look like Robert at all, and he was but he still had that essence of Freddy. Right. Having that essence of what a Fred Krueger is, so thick and dark and kind of alluring, just capturing that. I think anybody can really be Freddy if you really appreciate the character of who Freddy is. Right. I think you could make a good movie out of it. Right. But I think it worked so well, but I'm always up for extra stuff.
And I'm the same way. I mean, I can be hard on some people because I guess I am kind of spoiled with Robert. But it's kind of like you said, if someone comes in and does respect the role of Freddy, I think they could do it. But whatever comes out dealing with the Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy, I'm going to go see it. I mean, whether I hate it or whatever, I'm still going to go see it as a fan because, so I definitely agree. So, yeah. Did you like the remake of 2010?
It was
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Well, Diandra, what's next? What's next for you? And also, will they be another film of Don't Fall Asleep? Anything following?
We have not intended, so I don't think there will be. But the production company that I'm a part of that puts out Don't Fall Asleep, which will be our very first, is called Recount and Go. And we are actually working on 2 other movies right now, both original scripts. Okay. So the one should be filming by the end of the year, and the one following after that should be coming out in 2017.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. Well, Diandra, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on the show and being the second guest. So
I'm so honored. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you, man. I'm excited about seeing the new film. So, where can people find more information about you and the new film coming out?
Well, you can find more information about the film through Twitter at Don't Fall Asleep. No, Don't Fall _asleep. On Instagram, Don't Fall Asleep.fanfilm. It's a pretty long title. We're also on Facebook under Don't Fall Asleep Film, and I'm on FanFilm just as I'm on Facebook just as my.
Awesome. I'll definitely leave some links in the descriptions below. So awesome. Diandra, again, thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this show. And you know the deal. Until next time, stay safe. For more information on Diandra Lazor or the fan film Don't Fall Asleep, please visit facebook.com/don'tfallasleepfanfilm.